Have you ever tried to scale your business really quickly only to find out that your processes are keeping you behind? Well, that's what I'm talking to Yessenia Lauzardo from Rise Consult and Design today. She's going to be telling me exactly how she tried to scale and realized she had to scale back just a little bit in order to actually scale further. So stick with me if you want to hear all about that, and she has some great things to say today on today's podcast. Where did you grow up? What did you want to be when you were a kid before you got into the remodeling business?
So I grew up in Miami, Florida. Went to high school here, college. I did some of it here. I also did some of it in Pennsylvania, in Lancaster, but it was too
Oh,
much of a
Amish
small
country.
town. Yeah, Amish country. It was a very big adjustment for me. So I
Yeah.
lasted a semester, then I came back to Miami, to say the least.
I don't blame you.
And then, once I got here, I actually was going into school to be in law enforcement.
Okay.
But during the whole experience and stuff, things were getting kind of crazy out in the world, and I was like, do I really want to do this when I'm thinking about, like, getting married, raising a family, and all that stuff. So then I kind of went into the whole entrepreneur side of things. I actually opened like a little company. Marketing was like the first thing that came into mind, because that was probably like in 2011, 2010, around there. So it was starting to take off. So that's where my mind was going. And then pretty much one day, my father, in that time, that's like the recessions and stuff are going on. So my father got laid off and he was in construction. So then pretty much I just kind of was analyzing like the whole construction business. And then I was like, oh, you could get little jobs, handyman jobs and stuff like that. You don't have to like be working for a company.
Mhm.
And then I helped him with that. Long story short, in that transition of helping him, I kind of brought myself into it and I opened a company. I had my father be my first worker. And
That's awesome.
yeah, and then from there on, I just kind of scaled it and grew it. He told me I was crazy, that I wasn't going to work out, but here I am almost, well, actually 10, 11 years later, and it's still thriving and going.
Yeah, you definitely proved him wrong, that's for sure.
Yes, I did.
So was there a moment kind of early on in your business that, someone kind of took a chance on you and gave you like a shot where you were kind of like, okay, I need to either do this or this is not for me?
As far as like a shop per se, I mean, I kind of like just grew it and did everything on my own, looking for clients and stuff. But there has been times that big companies will come to me and be like, "Hey, we want to hire you as a one of our vendors." And I was like, I don't even know where to start. I mean, I'm used to doing like little small repairs here and there for homeowners, and
Yep.
now I'm going into commercial. But pretty much I went on YouTube. I learned everything I needed to learn about the commercial side and maintenance side and commercial side, and what what insurances I needed to work in it and all that stuff. So I, I just went for it. I didn't say no to the opportunity. Even though I didn't know what I was doing, I just learned as I went, and just took the leap and just did it.
That's great. And what part of the company was your dad helping you with? Was he doing like the actual work or was he more of like the project manager?
He was a worker. My
Okay.
dad is, when it comes to construction, he's hands on. He doesn't care for anything that has to do with admin or project managing. He's like, tell me what to do, I get it done, and you take care of everything else.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. My dad's the exact same way. I feel like he works with his hands, but I don't know if he could like do really a lot of the admin work. He doesn't want to do that either.
Right.
So like the
Yeah,
old school way, just get in the
exactly.
trenches and do it.
Exactly.
So was there a point in your business where you found that your reputation was preceding you? Like you said, kind of these commercial jobs, they were coming after you, where essentially like you were getting the calls instead of chasing the work.
Yeah, I mean, to this day, I have clients that have been with me for 10 years from when I started. Every time they need something, they'll call me. And if I can't do it for them, they'll go to somebody else. But for the most part, even if it's a small job, those are my loyal clients. I
Hmm.
take care of them. I have a particular client that I'm thinking about right now that I take care of his house, his parents' house, his son's house. Like, every time he calls me, I just drop what I'm doing and I make sure that I take care of those clients for sure.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, basically, usually when I talk to business owners, the busier you get, the harder it is to kind of stay that customer focused, like a keep everything on track type of business. What have you found to kind of manage or help you manage communication with customers, but also making sure that projects are complete on time and everything is kind of going smoothly?
I mean, what I do is I have, let's say, like my right hand person, let's say, do a group chat with the client, him, and I always tell him to add myself into it. I might not be involved in the day to day of it, but I'm always making sure that it's going smoothly. And
Hmm.
then another thing, I'm barely in the office. I mean, I don't like to be in the office, to be honest, to begin with, but I'm more like on the field, going around the projects, making sure they see me, that I, even though I'm, the owner, that I'm still involved, and I'm
Hmm.
making sure that, our crews are taking care of them the way they should be. And that's what I would say that I kind of, how I stay involved, even though, things have grown and I'm into a million things now instead of just how it used to be, just a one-on-one with the client.
Yeah. So how many people do you have working for you now?
As far as crews, we have 5 crews, and then I just have one person as far as admin helping me,
Okay.
like paperwork and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We actually grew a lot in 2021, 2022, but then 2023 we had to downsize again because like we just grew more than we could have handled, but we took care of things. But then as quick as it went up, it came back down. So then I
Yeah.
downsized a little bit.
Yeah, I understand that. Sometimes that happens, especially if, you take on too much work and then you can't really make sure everything is done to the right standards. Then you do have to kind of pick your target customers. I know you do more like high-end type of work. Are you still doing more of that high-end type of work, or you're taking on other things?
We're still doing high end, but we still take care of, like, your regular homeowners. What we're trying to get into a little bit more is kind of like commercial side, because what I've noticed is that the commercial side of construction is recession proof. Like,
Yeah.
even there always going to be something that a business needs done. So that's why I want to kind of not put all my balls in one basket and kind of do a little bit here, a little bit there, so that what happened in like 2023 and 2024 doesn't happen again.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Like you learn from your mistakes and fix it
Hmm.
from there.
Right.
So,
Right.
what does your kind of after hours typically look like? I know a lot of business owners don't, the job doesn't really start at 5 or stop at 5. It kind of continues through the night, or like if your crew is working late, you have to attend to something. Do you feel like you have a good work-life balance?
Now I do. For the most part, it's like you said, the phone never stops ringing. I would always be working till maybe like 11 o'clock at night. But now with kids, I kind of stop working like 6, 7. Then, once they're in bed, then if I have something to do, I'll take care of it later on, and then, take it from there. But it is rough to have that work life balance, especially when you have a family that you need to attend to as well.
Course, I totally understand that. I know it's tough sometimes when you get last minute sicknesses or whatever
Hmm.
happens. You have to schedule your day around those type of things. I totally get that.
Right. No, 100%. It is a lot, to say the least. But we'll make it work. We don't have a
I
choice, better
know.
said.
Absolutely. And it's fun to see them grow up and kind of, I think for you especially, like you could potentially make this into a family business and your kids, take the reins kind of like you did with your dad. It wasn't exactly the
Hmm.
same, but I think it's kind of nice to see the progression of like him doing stuff in the remodeling space and then you doing it. I bet that made him very proud to see you kind of going that direction after he told you it was a bad idea. But like once he sees you're successful.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to be honest, my oldest daughter, every time I'm on the phone, like in the car, talking to the guys, she'll be like, "Oh, what was that, John? Was that Leo?" She already kind of knows like the voices of which
Mhm.
guys I'm talking to, and then she's like, "Oh, what are they doing? What are you guys doing?" I take her to work, job sites as well, and so she actually understands it a little bit, and asks questions and stuff like that. So it might be a possibility. You never know.
Yeah, I think that's good. Usually, especially when you notice that kids are kind of interested in those types of things, then you foster that, I guess, like interest.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's really cool to know that you're doing that. So, kind of
Yeah.
back toward the business end, has there ever been a job that you have lost somewhere where something just went wrong and it happened because maybe you couldn't get back to them fast enough? You lost them to a competitor. I don't know if it because of, an estimate that went out late or a phone call that was missed. Has there ever been an issue like that?
I mean, as far as phone calls and stuff like that, for the most part, I'm at least I try to always, answer the calls, follow up with clients after we do estimates and stuff like that. But we have lost, I mean, quite a few projects because of competition. There might be somebody that gave them a less cost per project and stuff like that, and they go with them. Might not be the best person as far as like our competitor per se, because obviously the cost that we gave them with the cost that they gave them is completely off, but they
Hmm.
still choose to go that route, and that's on them. But yeah, that happens a lot down here. There's a lot of handymans that will be like, hey, I'm gonna renovate your bathroom, and for half the price that we can do it for.
Yeah, I actually do have a bunch of clients that are in like your area too, and that's the biggest thing that they deal with. A lot of times, the people that will undercut them by a lot, but end up doing a really bad job. And a lot of times they come back to them saying like, "Oh, I wish we just went with you anyway because you actually have the ability to get it done correctly the first time." But yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing that happens.
Yeah, I mean, funny that you say that, because right now there's a client that we gave him an estimate maybe like 2 years ago. He went with another person, and here we are demoing their bathrooms and doing it all over again.
Right. And it's like to spend that twice, that really sucks. That's something that I always
Hmm.
tell my remodelers to make sure like to like harp on this about the fact that there are a lot of unlicensed people, uninsured
Hmm.
people, people that will say they'll do it for less, but really what they're doing is they're just going to do a crappy job. And
Right.
they're not going to spend as much time on the quality of work, whereas your company, like the focus is quality, and you don't have to redo it for a long time. It's not like a year from now you're going to have leaks everywhere or tiles breaking or whatever the typical problems might arise to set yourself apart from these like handyman type of guys.
Right. No, and
Mm.
also warranty, because we give all our clients a year warranty. If there's anything wrong with, or any issues with something that we did, we'll go and take care of it at no cost.
That's really nice. Because yeah, usually the first year is when you start noticing those things,
Hmm.
things separating, glue coming apart, whatever it may be. I mean, I did my bathroom recently, and like the same thing. Within the first year, you do notice that some of these things might happen. The door starts sagging a little bit, and you want to be able to have someone come back and help you out without having to pay an extra $3,000 for, redoing of
What you
work.
did.
So
Right. Yeah.
totally get that. So in
Exactly.
your business, if there was anything that you could hand off tomorrow, what would it be? Never have to do it again.
That's a tough question. It's because that's one of the things that it was very hard for me to do, was while I was growing, was delegating and giving somebody else the reins on certain things. But I would say permitting. The whole process of permitting with the cities and all that stuff, it's very time consuming, to say the least. And you have to be on
Mm,
top of it. If not, I've actually lost clients because they don't understand the process. And we've been waiting for 6 months to get a permit approved, even though it's not our fault. We do everything that we're supposed to do. It's just
mhm.
that's just how it works. So I would
Wow,
definitely say permitting would be the one.
that really sucks. Is there anyone that like that could fast track these permits or get them, I don't know, like have it in with the office or something like that? I know that might not be possible, but it's just what I was thinking, like
So they have
squeeze it
here
past
permit,
it.
right? I mean, they have here permit expediters,
Okay.
but it's just Miami is growing, and they're building so much, like high rises and stuff like that. That is it just takes its time. And then it's not like you just go to like one building department for all of Miami. There's so many different building departments with the small municipalities and stuff like that. That believe it or not, the smaller they are, the worse it is to get it approved. And then the
Oh, I believe
bigger,
that.
it's quicker. It's like a in and out type situation.
Wow. So what happened when you lost these jobs? Was it because they just didn't understand the how long this was actually going to take, or what did it just take a lot longer than it was supposed to?
I so pretty much, because I always tell our clients, let's say for a bathroom renovation, let's say it's going to take 14 days. I tell them upon permit approval,
Okay.
since we don't have the control of how long that permit may or may not take. But I mean, maybe for the small bathroom it's not that big of a deal, but like for additions and stuff like that, they do take longer.
Mm,
And like, I have a client that's been waiting for like a year to get her permit approved. And then, some clients understand, because we try to involve them in the day-to-day process of it, so they can see that we're on top of it, that we are reaching out to the building
hmm.
department, that everything they give or they ask from us, we give it to them on a timely manner. But then there's some clients that they're like, oh, I never anticipated that this is going to take this long. I'm just not interested in doing the work anymore. And they
Mm,
just,
that really
you know, don't
that
want to do it anymore.
sucks. Yeah. I mean, if I were you, I'd probably give them like a really large span. Like, hey, I've seen it take 2 weeks and I've also seen it take 6 months. So if this is something that you really want to do, like just kind of being honest with you, this is how long it could take, just to give them those expectations up front. Because I feel like I wouldn't want to
Right.
be hit with a surprise. Oh my God, it's taken 6 months. I thought it was gonna be done in a couple weeks.
Right, right.
Yeah, I completely understand that too, but that sucks. So yeah, good luck with the whole permitting process. Hopefully you can get that off of your plate, one day soon, and someone else could just do that for you because that sounds like a lot.
Yes, it is. It is.
Well,
Definitely.
despite all of that extra work and like extra follow-up and calls, what kind of keeps you going?
I just kind of, I mean, I like what I do, to be honest. I like how every day it's something new, how, the aftermath of seeing, a client's house that they haven't touched in 40 years because it's been passed down from generation to generation to now they completely do it. And they're like amazed at the turnout or the possibilities that, that could have been taken and stuff like that. So I just like the day to day and just I guess touching and meeting different people and touching different lives of people. And I don't know. I think that's more than anything. It's just that I like dealing with my clients,
Yeah,
and being there for them.
of course. And I think it's more of like a creative, I look at you as like a creative visionary because I think that only there's select few people that can see kind of the beauty in something that's old and maybe like torn down or like just not functional anymore. And I think people get confused and they're overwhelmed by it. But if someone can come in and say, we're going to make this beautiful and a good space for you, and it turns out to be exactly what they wanted, I think there's something special about that. And I feel like you guys do a really good job like making the finished product look very unique, very beautiful. It's not just like your generic kind of like gray and white flippers bathroom. Like it's a
Right.
very like it feels like it belongs in the space. And I think when you're
Homey.
dealing with, yeah, exactly. Like it just
Mhm.
all matches and it's very nicely done. So I love how you do that. And the
Thank
transformation
you.
is very real for most people that have been living in something that's not beautiful for a long time.
Right. Yeah, definitely. That's one of that's one of the reasons why I kind of still have like that clientele, that the ones that work hard to together a budget for renovation, because those are the ones that mean more. I'm not gonna say mean more because all my clients, I like them, but they just work so hard to get to be able to put this budget together. Let's say to renovate their home
Yes.
or bathroom, and then when they see the aftermath, how grateful they are for what you did for their space, and how you made it more like them when they've been holding off on projects for XY reasons. But yeah, that's definitely a Y factor for sure.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What do you think like your best job was, or like the most like transformed job? And it's maybe a tough question, but
I'm actually currently right now working on a client. Once again, I met her years ago. I first did her fence, and she's like, I'm gonna call you one day when I have together a budget to renovate my home. So here we are, maybe like 7 years later, and we're renovating her home. This is one of these clients that her home was first her parents' house, then they took over, and now they're in their 60s, about to retire. They're like, all right, now I want to make this my home to then pass it down
Mhm.
to her son. So right now we're currently working on a house that was built in the 40s, and
Wow.
we're just completely renovating it. So far she loves what we have done. We still have the kitchen left, and that's like I could tell that she's like anxiously anticipating to see the outcome of that, because she's
Hmm.
not a visionary. So even though I did like a little design for her, she just doesn't understand how I'm gonna make that happen. So I'm just waiting for that reveal once it's done.
That's awesome. That's really great. I feel like it's really where like remodelers are special because they do turn this into like a dream. And she's obviously been waiting for a long time. She's
Mhm.
lived in this house since she was a kid, I'm assuming.
Right.
So this will be a really awesome transformation for her. That's pretty cool. I love that.
Yeah. Can't wait.
Where
I'll let you know how that goes.
Yeah, send me pictures when it's done because I'd love to
Yes.
see it.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's talk about where this is kind of all going. Where do you see your business in 5 years from now? Like, what does that version of you look like?
So I've been calling that my 2.0 version, just because, like I said, the last couple years, like it's been roller coaster to say the least, but we're still pushing through and making things happen. But I definitely see it being twice as good as it was the last 10 years, just because
Mhm.
in the last couple years I've learned so much. It's kind of been like slowly growing as the year has gone by, But I would say, let's say the last 4 years, like it's taught me a lot. Like, as far as having a 2-story office with 6 office employees to having then one, and then like I said, now it's 2.0 version. Now let's go back to now, and I have 6, maybe 12. But I kind of learned where I, let's say, dropped the ball, or didn't really put my attention to where I need to put my attention to. I could also bypass like the learning from the beginning part, because I already went through that. So now it's just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like scaling it back up to what it was, and putting systems together. I think systems is one of the biggest things that every construction company should have, because if you don't have one, then it's a must, to be honest.
Yes, I definitely agree. Do you think a business like yours can really, really grow without kind of losing that personalized touch that you seem to have with all of your customers?
I definitely think you could, because, like, once again, my thing is just being present for the customer. I mean, even if it's not twice a week or every week, just making sure that you pass by and they know that they hired you, because for the most part they hire you because of you, not necessarily
Hmm.
because of the business. So there's companies that I know that they get hired because of the owner or project manager, whoever, but then that person disappears from the project. And I always
Yep.
say that, like, that's a no. Like, just be there. Once again, even if you're not involved every day, or in the day of day part aspect of the project, that they just see you, so they know that you care. That it wasn't just like, hey, I hired you. You gave me a great sales pitch, but now that's it. That's all
Yep.
I saw of you. So that I do think that it's definitely a need to be there, and them see you and talk to you, and sometimes you can even bounce ideas off each other, because there's a
Hmm.
lot of times that clients change their mind mid project and they add even more to the scope of work. So just being there and being involved, I definitely think it's a must.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think you're right about that. They are buying you and they're buying your expertise and your ability to, make that transformation for them. And if you don't show up, it's sort of like, well, what did I get myself into? And they want the
Hmm.
confidence of you being there and making sure they know you're part of the everyday project. Even if you're not there every day, you're able to say like, hey, I know exactly what's going on. And,
Right.
we can add this scope of work with no problem, not make it an issue. So I think that is very important that you're personally there, because there are companies that just don't do that. And you never see the person again. And you just feel kind
Hmm.
of like, well, why didn't I just go with someone else then? Because clearly they're not
Yeah.
really available.
Right. You need to make it a little bit personal too, not just transactional.
Exactly. Totally makes sense. So for my last couple questions, just gonna be like a quick fire round, short answers. You could just tell me in little blurbs. What was the best job you ever did and what made it memorable? I know this is kind of similar to what you said before, but is there a job that you ever did in the past before that made it memorable for you?
It did, but not in a great way, I would say.
That's
I
okay. I've
mean,
had a lot of people say negative memorable things.
well, I'll go in there. I mean, like I said, you still have the good jobs, but it's construction. There's also the bad ones. But I would say one that to this day, I'll never forget, was my first big residential addition project. Like I said, I'm very a person that I have learned as I go, and I'm I try not to say no to things unless I know that for sure I can't do it. But it was my first addition project, and it definitely didn't go as planned. When you have all these trades working with you, it's not like if you say Monday at 8 a.m. I'll be there. They'll show up at 11, and there's nothing you can really do about it, because you can't control their business. You can only control what you can control. And yeah, I would just say that that one was definitely one for the books, trying to mingle with all these companies and get all this done.
That's tough, especially dealing with outside companies. You're right. You don't have that level of control that you would with, internal employees, and you can't really, I guess, hold them up to the standards of your company if they're really
Right.
not. That's tricky, but it's a learning experience. So
Yep.
I guess that's a
It
good thing.
definitely is.
What was like the funniest thing or most unexpected thing that ever happened on a job?
Funniest has, I would say, one time I went to give a high school acquaintance, let's say, an estimate, and it's like, I just knock on the door, and when they open the door, it's like, oh, hey, how are you? How you're doing? And it's like, oh, we knew each other, and it was kind of funny in that aspect of, you never know who your client is until you pretty much open that door. And there's so many people, at least, in Miami, that you'd be like, oh, this name rings a bell, but you would never think that it's really that person that's saying.
Hmm. That's really funny. Did you end up getting the job?
We did.
Okay, that's good. Good. See, that helped.
Yes, it definitely did. That goes back to that personal aspect of the business. Definitely.
Absolutely. They say like the more people you know, the better you'll do, I guess.
Yeah.
What was like, all right, what would you have one piece of advice for someone that was kind of just getting into the trades? Maybe something that you wish someone had told you that you didn't know it when you first started.
I would say always save for a rainy day and don't give up. There's a lot of people that give up early in the stages of building their business. And then you have the people that everything went well and then, things kind of got lost in the middle of things and then they give up again. But I mean, I feel like being a business owner, there's so many ups and downs and there's a lot of things that you may or may not be prepared for. But, just kind of prepare and have like just this knowledge of things that that things could be perfect, they could go south, but just keep on route. I mean, nothing is built overnight, and then at the end of the day, you're gonna always wish that you didn't give up and you saw like the outcome of all your hard work and dedication.
Hmm. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
It's okay, don't worry about it. It happens. He's there too. What was the biggest lesson that cost you the most to learn, but you're glad that you learned it? Mhm.
Being It goes back to that being involved in the day-to-day, even though you're scaling and you have other people delegating things, because at the end of the day, even if they work for you, that's it's still your company and it's still your brand. So if they drop the ball, it
Yeah.
affects you. So I feel like you always need to be there and make sure that what they say is being done, and that the client understand and are okay with how the project is going. I think that's
Yeah.
very important because you can't give somebody your 100%, let's say, trust in the business, because they could get another job, but then the one that gets affected is you in the long term.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that too. And you want to make sure your reputation precedes you and that,
Right.
everyone else that sees you is not going to say, oh, they had this person come that wasn't great. And like that is a reflection of you. So I
Exactly.
totally understand that. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. This was a really great conversation. I loved everything you had to say. I like that, it sounds like you've really learned a lot of these lessons along the way, but you've ultimately come out on top in the end. And I like your projected growth coming in the future. Like, I love to hear that because you've run a really good business.
Thank you for having me. And yeah, I mean, like I said, just kind of go with the flow, keep going, and the outcome is always going to be better than the chances you didn't take. That's definitely
Yes,
one of the things I see.
absolutely.